Hello, welcome to the New Stack Makers, a podcast where we talk about at-scale application development, deployment, and management. Hey, it's Alex Williams of the New Stack here at the Cloud Foundry Summit in Santa Clara, California. We're so excited to be here. We've been doing podcasts. We had a pancake breakfast this morning, learning all about the latest updates with the Open Service Broker API, new projects like Kubo. Here with Job Jackson, our managing editor, and Dr. Torg, two core people. Hey, Job.
Hey. Hey.
Hey, it's Alex Williams of the New Stack here at Cloud Foundry Summit in Santa Clara, California. It's day 2 of the summit, and today I'm here with Jana Richter and Bernd Krannich of SAP. Hello, how are you?
Hi, quite good. How are you?
Good. And Jana, you are a product manager, a team lead at SAP.
Exactly.
And Bernd, you're the technical lead for Cloud Foundry SAP.
At SAP Cloud Platform, yes, right.
Okay, great. So one of the things I wanted to just ask about was, as I understand, your initial engagement really with Cloud Foundry began in 2014, right? Is that about right?
Well, yes and no, I would say. So as our CTO has indicated, we actually have this kind of off and on relationship with Cloud Foundry. So we started looking into Cloud Foundry in 2011 already, actually.
Oh, right. Okay.
And then, through various conversations with VMware and, with our internal folks, we figured out that, the boundary conditions for us to engage into Cloud Foundry were not right at this point in time. So I think that situation changed then round about 2014 when the Cloud Foundry Foundation was about to be created.
Okay.
And that, I guess, got us again interested in Cloud Foundry as an overall topic.
Those were the early days. Those were like the the good old days. That was back when Cloud Foundry was part of VMware, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and there were people like Dave McCrory working on it. Yeah, wow. I remember going to VMware back in 2011, and they're like, "You got to check this." It was kind of a very exciting time because it was like, "Wait, what is this? What are you guys doing? This is an open platform," and so today here you are. You're now really, what is the focus for you on with Cloud Foundry? What is the direction you're taking with Cloud Foundry and the SAP platforms?
Yeah.
Well, for us, of course, first of all, the whole platform as a service game is a very important topic. And we really use Cloud Foundry as the environment where we bring a lot more openness into our platform as a service offering. By being able to run community build packs, have options to bring your own build packs, are open to a lot of backing services, and thus enable our customer base and our partner ecosystem to develop some microservices on top.
Okay. And so tell us more about what is it that you're building into your platform with Cloud Foundry. What is does that integration mean for you?
Mm-hmm. So I would say essentially when in 2011 and afterwards we decided to not go with Cloud Foundry, we started building our own platform as a service and developed that over time, and I think it's quite successful in the market as well. Yeah. Now, as Jana said, by adding Cloud Foundry into the overall capabilities of that platform, we bring quite a bit of openness into the platform. Now, basically what we do, and this is a question that I very often get, is we essentially take Cloud Foundry from the open source and kind of package that in a way to make it available in an enterprise-ready fashion for our customers, for the users of our platform, essentially. So it's not so much that we actually want to, let's say, on the platform as a service layer, the core technology platform as a service layer, want to differentiate and bring in additional capabilities. We want to use it as much as possible as it is, and then put additional value add actually on top of that layer.
And this value add could on the one hand side be technical services like integration services, IoT services, machine learning, blockchain services, or then real business services on top that the SAP ecosystem, SAP itself, and the customers develop and can then reuse.
How are you using Cloud Foundry internally?
Well, it's obviously we have that platform as a service offering that is used by customers and partners, but then there's also many areas inside SAP, many businesses, many divisions that are looking into building their own microservices-based applications. And usually the way that they do that is they think about how would they actually like to consume certain services, then they build those services first, and then they take those services that they build themselves and build software as a service applications out of those services. And then the usual pattern is that if you start that way, then you have services that are also good for others to consume and to build upon.
And maybe to add to that, of course we do have a lot of projects within SAP where we have developers with a lot of business know-how, but they not necessarily want to invest on their end in running servers and setting up a platform. And so it's the same driver like for the customers and the partners with the PaaS, that we provide, of course, a platform as a service that then our developers can use in order to build business applications on top and can just go ahead without thinking of really setting up an infrastructure and managing and running all those, just for really doing their job, which is providing the business expertise and creating the applications.
So how would you then define then the role of Hana in Cloud Foundry? And maybe you can explain to us what Hana really is.
Okay, Hana is our in-memory database. So it's really a columnar database that we do offer to customers in various environments. And of course, within the cloud, this is one of the differentiators on our end as well. That we say on the one hand side, we want to have a certain openness for backing services, but we do bring in our own IP and our own know-how and can give you Hana specifically for analytics purposes. We see a good footprint there so that people build up data marts and then create analytic kind of applications on top, or use analytics tools like Cloud Analytics in order to create dashboards and appealing UIs on top.
So Hana is a proprietary platform, and so how does it fit? How do you think about its evolution with Cloud Foundry, which is open source by nature?
Actually, I personally see that there's different drivers around that. Of course, if we do see either internally or with customers or partners the whole open source topic as very important, and where you say you just want to take the generic knowledge that you already have and you don't want to learn something new, then probably you are more on the standard backing services that are brought in by the community. However, if you want to use the unique strengths that then our technology brings and use some libraries that we have in there, like geospatial libraries, predictive capabilities that Hana comes with, then you can use that depending on the scenario. So it's a typical, of course, it depends answer, at least from my end.
Right. Maybe to add to that, usually what we see presenting our overall story with Cloud Foundry to customers is that they are surprised that we're actually offering both, right? So like some of the customers are just used to getting a kind of full SAP offering from SAP. That's at least traditionally what they got. Now with Cloud Platform and the openness and also Cloud Foundry coming in, they're surprised to see that on the one hand side, they can get a really high performance in-memory database coming from SAP, but at the same time, they could get just a Postgres database that they would also get on any other platform as a service built on Cloud Foundry. So it's really, as Jana said, that combination that really appeals to people.
So in terms of Cloud Foundry's evolution, we're seeing the the growing interest in like the Open Service Broker API, right? And there's this new project Kubo, right? Right. How does your investment in Cloud Foundry correlate to the Open Service Broker API and new projects such as Kubo?
Right. So first of all, for the Open Service Broker API, we're actually very happy to see that effort kicking off. So first of all, like when you take Cloud Foundry from the open source, then what you get is the pure kind of runtime layer. But what you need as somebody offering a public PaaS for customers is also the backing services. So immediately for us, the question came up: how do you not only have that runtime layer, but also the backing services available? And we basically decided that it's good to work on that effort, but we didn't want to work on that effort alone. So instead, what we did was we created an open source project called the Service Fabrik. So Fabrik with a K, like the German word for factory, essentially.
Okay.
And that is basically driving our backing services. So if you want to get a MongoDB or a Postgres as a service, then this is provisioned via the Service Fabrik.
Okay.
So basically we are playing in that space as well, where like the Service Fabrik in the end is offering the open service broker API. So it's an implementation of that.
So the Service Fabric then is built on the Open Service Broker API?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's an open source project in itself?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that'll act as the platform for you to integrate third-party services into a Cloud Foundry install.
Right, exactly. So especially if we are talking about what we call instance-based services, where like you cannot share a service among customers, but instead each customer needs to get an own instance. Like for example, in the database case, every customer gets their own Postgres database, whereas another scenario might have been to say everybody gets an own schema, but then you need to answer questions around how do you fairly distribute kind of the CPU shares, for example. So it's always better in those cases to basically give everybody their own database instance, and that's what Service Fabric is.
That makes sense, because that's a database as a service is a whole other kind of a
exactly
thing, right?
Yeah, correct.
You're starting to see more database as a service. Hana is offered as a database as a service.
Yep, exactly. Of course, as part of our platform as a service offering, so not necessarily only as a database as a service, but the key strength is really that we do have a database as a service as part of our PaaS. So you have a layer where you then develop applications and UIs, have integration services, analytics services, and database as a service.
Okay.
And now we extend, of course, the database as a service scope by not having HANA and SAP ASE that we have since a while already, but now spanning to MongoDB and Postgres as well.
Okay. So why are you doing that? What is the interest in this effort? I mean, to like build out the service fabric and like start integrating other databases. Is there a kind of a law of abundance here where you feel like there's like a more willingness to kind of try databases and HANA maybe in particular if you offer kind of a choice?
Well, essentially I would say there is always with Cloud Foundry that discussion around portability. And it's true, like everybody offering Cloud Foundry enables a certain level of portability, but then like that portability only goes so far. So in order to really write an application, you need to have backing services coming or being used by that application. And usually what you see if you look into kind of competitors' offerings is there is a certain minimum set of backing services that you simply need to provide in order to guarantee that portability between Cloud Foundry distributions. And things like MongoDB and Postgres are definitely part of that minimum set of backing services.
And to be honest, as great as an SAP HANA database is, of course it's not the one-fits-all database for all purposes that you might have if you create an application, right? So we started with HANA like 4 or 5 years ago, but then saw, well, if you just create an application that from time to time needs to store a record, you don't need a large-scale in-memory database, but you need a smaller one.
Right. You may need only like an SQL database, right?
Exactly, and that's why we then went ahead to have SAP ASE from our portfolio, but then with the additional drivers to answer questions around open source and portability, of course having some alternatives in the open source space makes tons of sense as well.
So there's a HANA Cloud as well. You have a HANA Cloud platform.
Well, this used to be our naming until February this year for the SAP Cloud Platform. So in essence, it's the same. We just removed the HANA from our branding just to reflect that the SAP Cloud Platform is a lot more than just the HANA database. But as just mentioned, a lot of services and a lot more backing services that came up in the last years.
That's a feedback I heard from Sapphire now, that this year it looked like SAP is making an effort to build HANA across its products, as opposed to making HANA the highlight of everything, right? To try and show that, that it's now part of the fabric of the SAP software, portfolio.
Of course, it still is a key element, but it's not the only one, right? And that we reflected by the changing in the branding as well. Not to say our cloud platform, our PaaS offering is not only a DBaaS, but it's more. And I think that's true for a lot of the cloud offerings, that HANA is a key element, but not the only one.
Now, Jana, did you help develop HANA?
Nope. I'm a
Okay.
product manager. I help rolling it out.
You help
but
rolling
not
it out.
developing.
Okay. Because I know there was a group of I don't know how, I don't want to get into like how old people are or whatever, but I remember when I was at Sapphire Now, there was a group of that it was discussed about how actually a group of students actually built HANA, and with SAP engineers, of course, but maybe there was another group.
So actually, the history that I know is that, of course, a lot of those innovative projects are actually coming from Potsdam, where we do have an SAP lab with a lot of students that help on the incubation. But of course, HANA is a far bigger project.
Yeah,
over
it's
the
a much
years, and a lot more people involved from a lot of locations.
So with SAP Cloud right now, then, and so what is the kind of direction of the infrastructure itself, and how does Cloud Foundry play a factor in that?
In terms of infrastructure, you mean things like infrastructure?
Your
as a
overall, I
service?
know that SAP actually is developed. It has its own cloud platform, right? And you have, and it's, and you use it. It's a hosting service, correct? It's like.
Oh, you're talking about HANA Enterprise Cloud, I guess.
I guess so.
Okay. Right. So that is definitely offering, I would say, more traditional SAP solutions in a hosted fashion to customers, still over the internet, but hosted by SAP. And now the SAP Cloud Platform is really the platform as a service offering.
Where does Kubernetes then come into your story? Does it come in at all?
So there's definitely efforts around Kubernetes across SAP. There's, for example, many applications, especially from our acquisition history, so people like SuccessFactors or Ariba, etc., that have a traditional history of running their own infrastructure. And especially those groups are now looking into Kubernetes as kind of an abstraction layer to not having to work with the bare metal anymore, but kind of moving that up one layer on the stack and kind of doing more of that software defined. Having said that, I think the same demand we also basically see for SAP Cloud Platform, where if you have Cloud Foundry, then definitely Cloud Foundry is an opinionated platform as a service, so it's good for a certain set of applications, essentially 12-factor applications. But then there's oftentimes questions around where do I put the pieces where a 12-factor application is not really suitable. I have this legacy piece that just needs to run and I can't rebuild it in a very short time. So I have to live with it and kind of run it somewhere. Where do I actually run it? And this is where I guess we see Kubernetes coming in also in a SAP Cloud Platform environment.
So have you looked at the Kubo project?
Yes, definitely we did that. So we were, I guess, very early in some discussions looped in by the Google folks. We looked into it. It's definitely a great door opener, I would say, because my assessment was so far that the Cloud Foundry community and the Kubernetes community, apart from that open service broker API, were kind of still a bit separate and doing their own things. I think with efforts like Kubo, it's definitely a good step to evolve that into more cross-consumption of technology and services. And definitely Kubo is a great step to kind of opening up the Cloud Foundry community for the benefits that come from the Kubernetes community as well.
And so what's the direction for SAP with Cloud Foundry? What is the, what is the rollout? What are the plans for building out Cloud Foundry?
Okay, first of all, we just had for Sapphire the general availability release on Amazon Web Services.
Okay.
So that was our first and big milestone this year. In parallel, we launched a beta on Azure. So our next goal is to bring that into general availability in the, I would say, autumn timeframe. That's our goal. And of course, then we are going to extend that scope to go towards Google Cloud Platform, and there with a similar approach, starting with a beta and then bringing this into general availability. And of course, having said that, even with those different environments, we plan to have then a more global rollout into different data centers, adding services on top. The mentioned technical services, business services. Of course, that's an area that's then growing with growing adoption and having the things generally available.
So you're looking. So you have general availability on AWS.
Yes.
You're bringing it to Azure this autumn. Then
It's already there, but in a beta at the moment. Yep.
it's in beta now.
Yep.
Okay, so it'll be general availability in the fall.
At least that's the plan. Yeah.
That's the plan. Then extended to Google Cloud Platform by next year.
So we are working on extending it already now, and of course then we will do beta. If it's end of the year, beginning of next year, time will have to show. Of course, general availability of Azure is similarly important as having the beta for Google Cloud Platform.
So, so this must be customer driven, I expect, right?
Yeah, sure. Customer driven by SAP, by our ecosystem.
Right. And what is the what is it that you're bringing to these different public cloud services, and why are you making such a push to them?
So essentially, I would say, first of all, yes, it's customer driven. Then I would also say that basically what we as SAP Cloud Platform need to make sure is, again, portability between those infrastructures. So if a customer or a partner also is using SAP Cloud Platform and SAP Cloud Platform services, which at a good deal are open source services, then what we make sure is that they can deploy on any of those big public infrastructure providers.
So that means then you can also deploy your service fabric.
Exactly. So that is anyhow deployed on all three big infrastructures.
And that's where the portability portability plays into that story.
Exactly. That is also why for those platforms we bring those those backing services actually along, to make sure that we have the same capabilities, be it on AWS, on Azure, or on Google Cloud Platform. However, and I think that was also mentioned this morning in the panel discussion, customers are free to use the infrastructure-specific services as well, right? So there's no point and also no good reason to prevent that. So if somebody wants to use a specific service that is only available on AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform, people are free to do that. Obviously, they need to consider then certain restrictions when it comes to porting that application then from SAP Cloud Platform running on AWS to Azure or Google Cloud Platform.
And at least for me, that's one of the drivers from our ecosystem and the customers as well, right? That many of them are very open to cloud already and have their preferred infrastructure as a service vendors. And of course, the microservices that you develop on top of a cloud platform should be close to where the rest of your applications reside as well. And if there is a need and you have a preference for AWS or Azure, then of course you can bring the SAP Cloud Platform close to that, integrate with those services and have them in a similar environment living together.
So will Cloud Foundry then play a role inside SAP as its major integration platform then? Is that the primary integration platform for SAP?
I personally wouldn't call it integration platform, but it is actually the platform where our development groups are building applications on top as well. So it's really the environment where a lot of our industry-specific development takes place. So whenever there's a decision not to do it in the core S/4HANA systems, but rather to ship this as a satellite add-on microservice delivery, then the application groups typically choose SAP Cloud Platform and Cloud Foundry specifically to develop those applications and to ship them in a very agile manner.
Would you call it more a portability platform?
Well, maybe kind of an extensibility platform then in that case.
Well, you call your
innovation platform because
right.
you quickly want to be able to ship for the needs of our customers' applications in a short release cycle.
I'm talking about it though from more of a technical perspective, because you're talking about a service. So you're talking about Cloud Foundry. You're talking about Service Fabric. You're talking about using multiple cloud services, right? You're talking about the ability to use multiple different databases inside this engine. And so yeah, definitely innovative without a doubt. But that was kind of my thought on the term integration. Is that wrong?
I mean, at least for me, integration has a slightly different meaning because we do have SAP Cloud Platform integration services. So this is really our process integration capabilities.
And that gets
And
into
that's a whole
semantics,
set-
though, I think, doesn't it?
Exactly. That's a whole set of iFlows and bringing together web services. So that's why, at least for me, the term integration has a slightly different meaning just on the process integration space.
Now, do you also have this extended services platform for HANA?
So
You
mean Hana XSA?
Yeah, XSA, yeah. And how does that relate? Does that relate to this? Is there a corollary here or no?
So basically, Hana XSA started off as, I would say, a kind of application server offering next to the HANA database, primarily deployed on-premise at our customers. Now, the desire and the ambition is to then take the applications that are running on that XSA platform and also offer them in a cloud-based environment. So what happens then is essentially that instead of deploying that on own infrastructure that is running next to the HANA database platform offering itself, those applications can run on Cloud Foundry. So that is, I would say, one of the extensions that we actually bring to the bare bones open source Cloud Foundry, where by using, for example, the Java and the Node build pack that come with Cloud Foundry plus additional libraries, people are able to take that XSA application from an on-prem environment and also put that into SAP Cloud Platform, running that on top of Cloud Foundry. So that's another value add I would basically see for us.
I guess my last question then is, I know you guys have been doing a lot of work in the Node.js community. How big of an emphasis is that now, and like how important is that for your Cloud Foundry story?
I think you can derive the importance from the fact that many applications are still built using Java, at least SAP internally, but there's like second to Java, there's actually Node.js coming up as a big offering, and essentially Java and Node.js are the two languages that you can write those XSA type of applications in. So definitely I would say next to Java, Node.js is definitely an environment that people are looking at when building their microservice-based applications.
Is there anything else that you're doing around Node.js this fall, or?
Well, there is definitely also people that are working in the Node.js open source. So basically helping to push the core runtime forward.
Right.
That is something that's happening also from the SAP side of the house.
Well, thank you both for taking the time to talk with us here at the New Stack at Cloud Foundry Summit. Appreciate you joining us, Jana and Bernd. Thank you very much, and look forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. And our thanks to Cloud Foundry for sponsoring our podcast from the Cloud Foundry Summit in Santa Clara, California. Check out Cloud Foundry at cloudfoundry.org, and talk to you again soon. Listen to more episodes of the New Stack Makers at thenewstack.io/podcasts. Please rate and review us on iTunes, like us on YouTube, and follow us on SoundCloud. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.